Somebody in Silo 18 has stolen 48 years worth of light bulbs. That's the actual number. Critical supply is supposed to hold a 50-year reserve, and Carla tells Paul there's about 2 years left in there. The rest is gone, hauled out at night on sleds, along with barrels of vitamin D plus and computers, in a silo where nobody is short of light and nobody could sell a stolen bulb to a single person if they tried. So somebody down there needs to light up somewhere that has never had light before. Somewhere big enough to swallow half a century of bulbs. And the woman who worked out how those goods were being moved was dead within days of saying so out loud. I think I know where all of it is going, and I think a lot more people are involved than anyone in this show currently suspects. Let me walk through how the pieces fit, because almost every individual part of this is already confirmed on screen. What's missing is somebody putting them side by side. Bulbs are bulky, fragile, and completely worthless in quantity to anyone who already has enough light, which rules out almost every ordinary motive a thief could have. They're valuable to exactly one kind of person, somebody who needs to illuminate a space that has never had light in it. There's exactly one project in this world that fits that description, and Camille Sims has already named it out loud. Lucas Kyle disappeared during the rebellion, and the official assumption is that he died in it. Camille doesn't believe that. In episode 3, she works through the same logic anyone paying attention should. Lucas was Bernard's shadow, so he knows there are other silos. He found the tunnel beneath Silo 18 in the Season 2 finale, met the algorithm face to face, and was told directly that speaking about what he'd seen would trigger the safeguard. A man with that specific set of knowledge who then vanishes for 93 days is not a man who died in a riot. He's a man who went somewhere. How much Lucas actually knows matters here, because he may hold more of the picture than anyone else currently alive in Silo 18. He decoded Salvador Quinn's hidden message off the ancient hard drive, which is how he learned there were 50 silos rather than one. When he brought that to Bernard corrected him upward to 51 and never explained the extra. He then followed Quinn's instructions down to the bottom of the silo, jumped into water he couldn't see the depth of, and found the tunnel Quinn had described. He's spoken with the algorithm directly, which almost nobody in this world has. He knows the safeguard exists, what it does, and that it's aimed at him personally if he talks. Bernard, by contrast, didn't even know about the safeguard until Lucas told him. Camille takes it a step further and lands exactly where this theory does. She asks the algorithm how close the nearest silo is, and while it refuses to answer directly, it tells her something far more revealing, that any silo-to-silo contact triggers an immediate safeguard. That's her confirmation. If Lucas is down there digging horizontally, he isn't just breaking the pact. He's building the one thing capable of killing every person in Silo 18 the moment it succeeds. Her response is to gas the mines under a fabricated rat extermination, without warning, with miners still inside. So the show itself has already put this theory in a character's mouth. What Camille gets wrong, and what makes her version incomplete, is the assumption that Lucas is working alone. A solo effort would require one man to hide from a silo-wide manhunt, dig horizontally through rock for 3 months, feed himself, dispose of the spoil, and stay hidden from Judicial the entire time. Then there's what actually happened when Camille flooded those mines with poison gas. Lucas walked out of the smoke wearing a gas mask, carried an unconscious Juliet to safety, and disappeared again before anyone could reach him. Where did the mask come from? Somebody either gave him one, or he had access to equipment stores he shouldn't have had. And he knew to have it on him at the exact moment an unannounced fumigation began, which either means extraordinary luck or that someone warned him. Lucas also isn't a stranger down there. Before Bernard ever made him a shadow, Lucas was sentenced to the mines, and that matters more than it sounds. The mines are where Silo 18 sends people it wants forgotten, which means the workers down there have every reason to distrust the authority above them, and every reason to protect one of their own who came back. When Sims is asked why Bernard pulled Lucas out of the mines in the first place, he claims not to know. A man with existing relationships in the one part of the silo nobody up top wants to visit is a man with somewhere to hide and people willing to hide him. The mines aren't even the only group covering for him. After Lucas pulls Juliet clear of the gas and slips away, he ends up in the hands of Kennedy's outsiders, the faction operating down in the deepest levels outside any official structure. So within a single episode, Lucas moves through a fumigated mine, past a manhunt, and into the protection of an organized group that Judicial has been unable to shut down. That's 2 separate populations in the lower silo who know where he is and haven't given him up, and Camille's entire strategy has been built on the assumption that she's chasing one man alone. There's a detail from the gassing that fits this uncomfortably well. When Juliet gave her own mask to a struggling miner, that miner beat her down and took it, leaving her to choke. That reads as pure desperation on first watch. It reads differently if some of the people in those tunnels had a reason to stop the new mayor from getting any deeper into them. Which brings the theory to the part I think is strongest, the question of why Silo 17 specifically. Digging blind in a random direction would be suicide. But Lukas has something no one else in the silo has, information about where at least one other silo actually is. He saw the footage of Juliet walking out of Silo 18 and over the hill. Anyone who watched that could measure roughly how long she was on her feet, multiply it by ordinary walking speed, and get a usable estimate of distance, along with a rough sense of direction from the footage itself. Add the schematics Lukas had access to as Bernard's shadow, and a horizontal dig stops being a guess and becomes an engineering problem with a target. The choice of Silo 17 over any other neighbor is where this gets genuinely clever, and it hinges on something Lukas could work out from Juliet's survival alone. The algorithm says silo-to-silo contact triggers an immediate safeguard. Juliet walked from Silo 18 to Silo 17, crossed between two silos in the most literal way possible, and came back alive to a silo that was still standing. Whatever should have happened when those two populations connected didn't happen. The likeliest reason is that Silo 17's safeguard was already spent, or capped, or otherwise dead, along with almost everyone in it. Lukas has seen that Silo 17 is a corpse. Reaching a dead silo means reaching one that can't retaliate and can't trigger anything, which makes it the only safe destination on the entire map. It's the one place a tunnel could actually connect without killing everyone at both ends. Now the supply chain, and this is where the confirmed material does most of the work on its own. Glenda Harwood was shadow to Carla McLean, the head of supply, which put her in direct control of what moved in and out of the silo stores. Glenda is also the daughter of Ed Harwood, the head of the mines, one family holding the entrance to the tunnels and the keys to the warehouse. Orla Kent replaced Glenda in that shadow position, and Glenda resented it openly. Orla then opened an investigation into Glenda specifically. While touring the reconstruction of the stairs at the Gap, Orla noticed several things that gave her new ideas about how Glenda had been moving cargo around the silo. She tried to report her findings directly to Juliet at a reception and got cut off before she could. She told her boyfriend Mike Davidson that she was going to look around construction because standing at the Gap had given her ideas about how the stolen goods were being moved, and when he asked her to explain, she said she'd tell him if she turned out to be right. She never turned up that night. Her sister filed a missing person report the next day. Her body came out of the mines during Camille's fumigation, and the coroner found she'd been dead for days already, killed by blunt force trauma to the back of the head, then dumped in a sealed tunnel so the gas would take the blame. That timeline is the single most damning thing in this entire theory. Orla figured out the route the goods were taking, said so out loud to one person, and died before she could tell anyone who mattered. What she'd actually spotted deserves its own attention, because the location matters. She wasn't going through paperwork when it clicked. She was standing at the Gap. The stretch of stairwell Knox and Shirley have been rebuilding since the rebellion, and something about the reconstruction itself gave her the idea. Then she said she was heading to construction to confirm it. A reconstruction site is the one place in a silo where enormous quantities of material move constantly, where crews come and go at odd hours, and where nobody would think twice about sleds hauling heavy loads through half-finished stairwells. If you needed to move a warehouse worth of goods down through the silo without anyone noticing, hiding it inside a legitimate reconstruction effort is close to the perfect cover, and Orla appears to have been the only person who looked at that site and saw what it was actually being used for. Mike Davidson comes into focus for exactly that reason. He was Glenda's boyfriend before he was Orla's, which means he has now dated 2 consecutive shadows to the head of supply. That's either a remarkable coincidence or a pattern, and in a silo where supply controls every physical resource that exists, being romantically attached to whoever holds that position is an extraordinarily useful place to stand. His reaction to Orla's disappearance makes it worse rather than better. His girlfriend has been missing for 2 days, and his stated concern is whether his dog is getting enough exercise. He's also the one person who knew she was heading to construction that night. Then Carla McLean, the head of supply herself, goes missing too. Paul goes to supply expecting to meet her, and finds Glenda instead, already sitting in Orla's old office, having reclaimed the shadow role on the grounds that nobody else was available. 2 people who held authority over critical supply are gone within days of each other, and the person who benefits from both absences is the daughter of the head of the mines. The digger void ties the last knot. It's the chamber beneath Silo 18 that holds the remains of the machine that dug this place in the first place, a machine confirmed to have been stripped of all useful parts by year 14-3. George Wilkins used the void as a camp while searching for a door marked on old blueprints. Martha Walker sealed it 3 months after the rebellion, publicly because young people kept exploring it and needing rescue. Except Martha didn't seal it properly. When Juliet gets down there with Shirley's help, the wall marked "No Access" turns out to be a door that simply opens, and behind it is Bernard, alive, living in a space nobody was supposed to be able to reach. Knox told Juliet directly that the void had been sealed so nobody could hide down there, and he was wrong. Somebody has been hiding down there this whole time. A sealed area that isn't actually sealed, containing the wreck of a digging machine, sitting directly beneath the mines where a man has been missing for 3 months, in a silo bleeding light bulbs at a scale nobody can account for. Those facts want to be connected. What makes that stretch of the silo even harder to dismiss is that it's now confirmed to be hiding 2 separate operations at once. Bernard has been living in the digger void, protected by Robert Sims, who fabricated an entire murder to explain his absence. Lukas has been somewhere in the mines directly above or beside it, protected by miners and eventually the outsiders. Neither operation appears to know about the other, and Camille, who runs IT and has the algorithm feeding her intelligence, missed both of them completely. The lower levels of Silo 18 have quietly become a place where the people up top simply cannot see what's happening, which is exactly the condition a project like this would need to survive for 3 months. The machine itself raises its own question. The digger void exists because something dug Silo 18 in the first place, and that something is still down there, stripped of every useful part by year 43. Somebody, more than 2 centuries ago, took the components out of the one machine in this world purpose, built for tunneling. Whether those parts were scrapped, stored, or repurposed has never been explained, and in a season where the central question is whether someone is digging horizontally, an absence like that is difficult to read as nothing. The stolen vitamin D+ is the piece that resists a clean answer, and forcing one would be dishonest. Barrels of memory suppressant have no obvious use in a tunnel. 2 readings hold up. The first is that stealing D+ is the point in itself, since every barrel diverted from water filtration is a barrel that never reaches 10,000 people's drinking water, which would make this operation a resistance effort as much as an engineering project. The second is darker and more speculative, that whoever's digging expects to eventually need it, either for a population they meet on the other side or for their own people afterward. Neither reading is confirmed. The theft itself is. The computers are easier to explain and harder to ignore. Digging accurately toward a fixed point over a long distance requires calculation, and any serious attempt at reaching a specific silo rather than wandering into rock would need better tools than a pickaxe and hope. The version of this theory that goes furthest is the idea that another silo is quietly resupplying itself from Silo 18's stores, using inside help. It would explain the scale of the theft in a way a single tunnel arguably doesn't, since 48 years of bulbs is an enormous amount of light for one dig. It's also the least supported part of the whole picture, resting on the volume of goods rather than on anything the show has actually shown, and honesty requires flagging that gap rather than smoothing over it. A tunnel long enough to reach another silo would itself consume a staggering amount of material, so the numbers don't demand a second silo to make sense. The strongest argument against all of this has to be taken seriously. Camille's theory about Lukas remains unconfirmed inside the show itself, and one recapper has pointed out fairly that Lukas surfacing to save Juliet proves he's alive in the mines without proving anything about what he's doing there. The supply theft could be ordinary corruption, a family enriching itself through a department it controls, with Orla killed for the entirely mundane reason that she caught them stealing. That version requires no tunnel at all, and explains the murder just as well. What that reading struggles with is the light bulbs. Ordinary corruption steals things that can be sold or used, and 48 years of bulbs in a silo with no light shortage is neither. It's a quantity that only makes sense if somewhere new needs illuminating permanently, and the only somewhere new anyone in this story could be building is underground and horizontal. There's one more piece that makes the whole thing land harder. Knox eventually works out what the names etched into the tunnel walls actually are. He'd assumed they were founders, and they turn out to be mechanical workers who died in past rebellions. And he realizes the rebellion he grew up hearing about was only the most recent of many, each one blamed on mechanical regardless of who actually started it. The people down there have generations of evidence that the system above them lies about who caused what, and lets them absorb the cost. If anyone in Silo 18 had a reason to help a fugitive dig his way out from under that system, it's the miners, and if anyone had a reason to keep it quiet, it's them too. The theft is confirmed, the items are confirmed, the sleds and the night movements are confirmed, Orla's investigation and murder are confirmed, the Harwood family's position across supply in the mines is confirmed, Carla's disappearance is confirmed, and Camille has already voiced the tunnel theory on screen. What remains inference is the link between them, that the missing supplies are feeding the dig, and that the people protecting it stretch from the mines all the way up into supply. If that's right, then the most dangerous thing happening in Silo 18 right now is a hole in the ground getting longer every night, quietly outranking both Camille hunting Juliet and the algorithm escalating toward murder, funded by a 50-year reserve of light bulbs, heading toward a dead silo, carrying with it the one act the algorithm has stated plainly: it will end 10,000 lives to prevent. Somebody down there is very close to finishing it.